Welcome back. Alright, so here we go for the fun part. Tedious, but fun. We're going to tie our canopy beads onto our beautiful frame, and then after that we'll bend the bail and drop the rest of these wires over to the back side to cover up all those little ends. So I like to cut about 2 feet of 28 gauge and just work with it on each side of the frame. I put a little bend in the middle here, and I'll just thread through my tree and attach this wire here at the bail. I like the look of the tree, so I'm not going to put a huge amount of green on it, just enough to scatter some green around, and then I'm going to fill in with these beautiful little 1 and 2 millimeter beads of various fruits. So I just made a couple of wraps around the shoulder here of the frame. To get attached, and then I'm going to just work my way through these branches. I'm going to pick some of the smallest peridot, 1 or 2, and drop them on. I'll start with the green canopy, and then I'll come back with another wire and sew the little berries on. Oof. Don't knock them off your board. I have them on a little felt pad so they don't roll away. So I put a couple on. I don't like to put long strings of beads because then it looks unnatural. I do 2 or 3, and then I literally sew through the frame or to a branch to attach them. Make sure there's no slack in that wire. Get them sitting where you want them, and then come around the frame or the branch again and lock them into place there. Okay, so it's just kind of like sewing beads. Let me change the camera. Alright, so hopefully you can see that. And then just work your way through. So I've got a couple of peridot right there. If I want to move down a branch, all I have to do is get my wire and come through the tree, and rather than stay on the frame, I've got an intersection here that might be nice. I'm going to wrap around the branch. Try not to let your wires kink. Made a little stretch down here like this. I don't like to leave long stretches like that. Actually, that did not go where I thought it was going to go, so I'll go back down here. I want to get into that intersection right there and just get my wire in position to get a bead right there. So I just made a 360 loop around that little crisscrossed intersection of branches so that I could travel down. Watch that other end of the wire. Sometimes it knocks your little tiny beads away. Ooh. Make sure you got good light. This is the hard part about it. Sometimes you can just spear them like that. Take 2, take 3. You can pick up berries if you want to right now too, but I like to do my green ones first. So I'll just wrap around this branch right here. So I did a complete 360 and just sewed those on. Now if I want to put some up here, I'll just try to travel my wire behind this branch. So you get the idea. Just work carefully. Try not to leave big bubbles of wire, right? Try to do small, neat clusters. If you keep the end neat, you can kind of use it like a needle. And I try to get the very smallest chips. These are peridot and green apatite chips. And I've got them between 2 and probably 4 millimeter, and I'm literally trying to pick through and take the two millimeter ones if I can get them, or smaller, you know, the smallest ones. I'm given millimeters, but you can't really millimeter out chips because they're irregular. So I've attached those two. I've got a little darker one for just some color contrast. And just do that. Continue to work around yours. As you're out here to this outer frame, try to take an extra wrap or two to get these ends, you know, of the branches so that they don't jiggle so much while you're up here. As you tie beads, it'll tighten all up. But while I'm up here and I'm traveling, I like to try to get those little wraps as well. Just like that. And I just do them very sparingly because I don't like, I love my branches. So you want to leave the interest of the negative space so that you can see these, the work of your beautiful sculpted tree. Just come down this branch a little bit, then come back up onto this next one. Just sew in and out of them to travel through them. So here's what it's looking like so far up close. I'll leave the camera up here now that you see, you know, how I go about picking up the beads and how I go about attaching to the branches. So you can get a real good look at your sculpture. And so the interest is all up in here. I'll just scatter some of these greens just like this. And then I'll come back with, if I don't have enough of this wire, I'll attach another one, and then I'll come back with the berries. You know, as you work, like I said, and you come along this frame, try to get an extra wrap or two around these areas where your branches attach to try to help hold those branches in position so that they don't move along this frame. See, these are not tied. They move a little bit. And these that I wrapped a couple times don't move so much. Okay? And then you can always get them with the berry, you know, the wire that you pick your berries up onto, or your fruit. So there's a couple. I work with just 2 or 3 of them at a time. This is kind of the Zen part of it. Listen to some lovely, relaxing music. And sew your beautiful beads on. So if you, oop, my one broke. Sometimes that happens. Did you see that little green one fell off? So I'll just put another one there. So I don't know if you noticed or if you read in the description, but this is a very deliberate frame. It's a hexagon cube. It's a cube. I'll show you here in a second. And I think it's a very beautiful shape. It's the shape of a honeycomb, right? Bees make their honey or bees make their hives and their honeycombs in this six-sided shape. So here's your six sides that we did in our frame. And then as you can see, the tree kind of completes this 3D cube that we're looking at. So it's the tree of 5 fruits. I'm sure you guys are wondering why I did that, because it's a cube of 6 sides. Well, what it is that the tree is one whole entity or one whole piece with 2 and then 3 splits in it, the trunk and 2 main arms. So the tree is 1, 2, and 3. It's living on 1, 2, 3, and 4 points. This one is invisible, right? But it is the point. And then it has 5 fruits on a 6-sided cube. And that's why. So I hope you enjoyed that story about why I shaped this tree in this particular way. And it is the 6th month of the year. All right, so here we go. We'll keep adding these little green beads, and then I'll just move to the other wire and start working along the other side. So I gave a link to a shop, a link in this video description to a shop that sells these itty bitty tiny gemstone beads. And you don't, I mean, one strand goes a long way because you only use a little bit on these trees, right? So anyway, that's where you can find these little tiny 1 and 2 millimeter gemstones. I'll come back up here because I want to stay to this right hand side with this wire. Oh, I just undid myself. Sometimes that happens. I was talking to you and not paying attention to which way I sewed this onto the branch and then unsewed it. As you work, sometimes these little frays want to come out. Just tap them down. Tap them down until we get there and deal with them. And then I'll show you the secret after we sew our beads on about what you also can do if you need to help you keep those little ends in order. So sometimes if I got a little too much jiggle around 2 beads like these 2, I'll wrap in between them. Just kind of tie them to that branch a little bit more. Hold them in place here and get your wire through. Just tighten it up. And don't worry, don't stress, because we're going to come through with the pink beads, the fruit beads here also. So you'll have a second opportunity to tighten things up. I like to just make sure that there's no slack in my wire, that I'm not leaving big gaps of bubbled wire everywhere. Try to get the beads down securely to the branch or to the frame. While I'm up here, just going to wrap around, you know, these tree ends right here, so to keep them in place while I'm up here with my wire. And I just do them as I get to them. It'll help to prevent things like this as well, if you take this extra wrap or two around there. Okay, so I'll pick up a few more green ones. And I'm going to speed the video up. You keep working your green ones, just for the sake of time. And then you can pause here until you get your green canopies on, and then we'll jump to the pink fruit beads and the rest of this frame. What I'm doing right here is just I've got a little bit of wire left, not much. So rather than try to get short wire and get a few more beads, I'm just going to wrap these little branches here on the sides and get them into place. Do you see what I mean by if you tie them, then the jiggle becomes gone. Just make sure you got your little ends in place, and then take a few wraps to travel to it so you're not leaving big stretch wire. You have a nice clean look and the branch doesn't jiggle. I'll go underneath it, just become part of it, and then travel back up a couple of wraps. Okay? Probably bury my wire right in between those. Then I can just, break it or snip it, whichever is easier for you to do. If you want to break it, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but you can put your thumb right here and just do this twist on that single wire. Okay? Make sure it's laying down. And again, we'll do something more to these ends later. But that looks pretty good for the grains. I've got a little bit of wire over here. I'll probably drop another one or two down here and then go to my colored beads. Sometimes less is more, right? If we had covered all that up, we wouldn't see all that beautiful work that we did in our tree. So I'm just going to travel my wire over, get it over this big knuckle. Raise these two a little bit. Travel my wire down in between it to keep it in place. Helps me to keep it raised a little bit where I want it to be. Pick up a couple of tiny beads, tiny peridot. Ooh. Try to find a tiny little apatite too. Get some darker ones in here. I like doing a dark one here and there just for the shadowing and the depth. So here's a little, you see it, it's just barely different green, just a little bit darker, but it gives just a little bit of depth if you can drop them here and there onto your branches. They're very cute. I could put that more to the inside. It didn't have to be right there. It just happened to be right here. You do yours the way you love it. And then my little wire here, I think I might do one more. I'm going to travel in on this branch a little bit. And I don't like to leave what looks like armbands around the branches. They're twisted and sloped. So if I need to travel down the tree, I'm also going to slope this wire in and out so that it looks natural on the branch. You see, sloping it rather than doing this hard 360. You'll do a slanted 360 and move through your branches as you need to. Try to stay with the twist in the branch so that you don't notice that tie wire. See? So now I'm over here, and I'll pick up a couple of tiny peridot, and then I'll move to my pink ones. my fruits. And I guess I have the iolite there. So one is purple. Ooh. Okay. So that way it allows me to put a couple there if I need to. And I like that. Without having to fill all that space in between the branches to get there. When I tie the pink ones on, I'm just going to dab them through these greens. Again, I'm not going to fill too many. Probably should have dropped another green one there. But anyway, you do yours the way you want. But I like to leave the open negative space so that I can see the branch work in this one. So I'm going to work over here. You see you don't see that I've tied that wire on at all. The branch looks uninterrupted. Then I'm just going to make a few ties right around here to keep it tight. If you need to pinch anything, you can get your bent nose and just do the slightest tapping to get wires under control if you can see bubbles or to help you scooch things, etc. Or when this wire gets too short, you can sew with it as well. I'm just going to do a couple of wraps. And then I'm going to get rid of this wire. Okay, beautiful. Just use your fingers and scoot your beads if necessary. I'm going to grab one of these scraps and put a couple of green ones right here. I feel like I was talking and I missed that spot. I want some green ones there. So I'll just take another couple of feet. Might as well get the pink wire started, and then I'll just remember to drop a couple of green beads there. I'll take another couple of feet and I'll do the same as I did with the previous wire, and I'll just attach right here to the frame in the middle of the wire. Do a few wraps. Then I'm going to dive to the inside of the frame here with my wire so that I can get into the green canopy. So this one is here. I'll tie this one onto this side. Then I'll come up over here where I want to start some pink beads with this one. So my wire's on the inside of the canopy now, or on the inside of the frame here. And then I can start to pick up my pink ones. So you can scatter them as you like. Since this is a 5 fruits tree, and each of these pieces would be a different tree, a different fruit tree, I'm going to cluster them. So I'll end up doing 3 or 4 of the same color and move that into the next color and so forth. You can do yours as you'd like. I'll just start up here in the middle, and I think in the middle I'm going to put these really cute, and these are small to get, so do you see how I've used the end of my wire like a needle This is why these beads are on felt, so that I can kind of roll around until I find that hole and then drop them on to the wire. Let them slide all the way down. They're very small, so you can cluster them in 2, 3, 4, however you want to do. Okay, so I'm probably going to put a couple more on there. And you can make them just super cute. These could be apples, these could be cherries. I don't know how they, you'll have to read the story. I'll put it into the link at the end of this video as well, or in the video description. So I'm just going to come down here and find a cute place to cluster them onto this wire. Hold them with my thumb there, because they want to travel on you. They're tiny. Then I'm just going to dive in to a branch, make sure my wire comes through without kinking if I can avoid it. And I'll get them nice and snug. Ooh. And I'll try to come back up. Oh my goodness. Onto the, there it is. Onto the little tiny branch. See how they want to move? This is what I mean. So you have to kind of let gravity help you. Get your fingernail there and then get that wire tight. Try not to pull so tight that you take your beautiful tree out of shape, but try to not have any slack between there. Okay, and then just keep working. So, and you can fill in with little green ones here and there, right? If it's too many berries in one place, then you drop one single green one and you pick up a few more of the same berries or apples or cherries. Oh. They're so small, but it's so worth it because they're so darling. Look how, oh my goodness, look how cute that is. Okay, so then I'll just get those little bits attached there. Sometimes I move my wire because I've got bare space, so I think, oh, instead of going there, maybe I can come down here. And I might do that instead. Just try to get these berries and beads tied up against each other so that you don't have that little strip of flopping bare wire. Okay, so I think I will go here with them and then just double back. I kinked right there a little bit. Just make sure to get that under control and scrape it out with your finger. That little tiny kink against these little itty bitty beads, and that'll prevent it from going through the hole. Okay, so I'll just scooch it up best I can. I'm going to take one more wrap and go down to over here, travel with my wire. So as it goes through, see, I might do that. Just try to keep that under control. As you work. That's darling. So I'm going to come around this big branch here. I'm going to try to slant my wire so I don't notice that motion. See, I'm in the opposite direction that the wire tree twist is, that the branch twist is actually going, so I can see that crossover. I don't care for it so much. It won't be seen if you cover it up. So I'm going to go this way instead and bring myself down here from the back side. And then you don't see that as much, if at all, except for I shifted that. It's okay. I think my OCD is kicking in today. It doesn't have to be, you know, absolutely perfect. It's a tree. So it's beautifully imperfect in all areas, which means that you can just do whatever your heart pleases you. And now I'm going to go to my next little cluster of fruits, and I'll pick up a couple of these pink ones. Just want to come up on this little branch from behind and do a 360 around it and anchor right there at the armpit. And I'll put a couple of beads right there. We are supposed to get the most major thunderstorms, I think, today and tomorrow. So that'll be nice. It'll be nice to do trees. Ooh. So when the end of your wire gets wrinkly like that, I cannot get it through the bead. So you can try to unwrinkle it, but eventually you just have to cut it. It won't unwrinkle enough. So that's what happened to mine. I like that. So rather than stretch it, because it's just shy of the frame, I'm going to come in here and get from behind. So I don't have a stretch wire there in the front. And I'll wrap right around this frame a couple times to hold them there. So cute. That is so cute. And see, I don't need to fill all that negative space. I can see these berries, or fruits. I keep calling them berries because of their color. And it could be. But I don't need to put hordes on there. So I might, that might be all I do there. If I feel like I need to wrap, there's one or two little clusters right there that I'm going to just put this wire through this knuckle right here. You can kind of bury it in the cluster of wires there. Jiggle it and get rid of it like that. And then that looks pretty good. Make sure your beads, your fruits are facing forward. You can see them. Nice. Keep a couple things under control here. Now I'll go to this wire over here and I'll change the color of my beads again. Put some of these tiny garnets on. I think these are garnets. The problem with what I have here, and the reason why I've called them all crystal quartz or Chinese crystal, is because I believe they're actually natural gemstones. I just don't have the ticket on them, so I can't promise that these are natural, other than quartz. So I say these are garnets. I believe they are garnets. My memory says that I bought garnets, but I can't find the paper that says I bought garnets. So anyway, they're so pretty. Look at that color. Put those on there. Couple of nice wraps. I'm going to travel down into this space here just by coming around and getting a branch coming behind there. And then I'll put a few more berries right here. Ooh, I love these. Oh my goodness. Ooh, the holes are small. Take your time, work in good light. All right. Got 3 of them on there. Might be too many. That looks good there. I'll just jiggle them right through there. Take one off. gotta kind of hold them down with your thumb because they're so small they ride back up on the wire when you try to pass through. I notice a little bubble right here in this green one as I happen to be here. I'm going to wrap around it since I'm here and since I'm noticing it. It's right there. Tighten it up. Gives me the opportunity then to drop another cute little garnet right here. I might pick up the tiniest green one if I can get it too, and since I don't have a lot of space for chips, I'm just going to use one of these tiny little green garnets that I have. That lets me come down with a different shape that's a little smaller but still green. You just do yours however you want. So long as you love it, it's going to be beautiful. Just make a happy little tree, as our favorite would say. Alright, so I'm just going to work this wire over. I like that a lot right there. And I'll put a few more berries. Probably switch, let me see, what have I got? 3 colors? I've got 2 colors to go. So I'm going to go to, I think, the very light pink ones. Maybe I'll pick up a green one. I don't like straight runs if I can avoid them, so I'm going to break that up with another green one here and bring it this way. Whoop! Oh my. Oh my. Yeah, I think I like that a little better. And I don't have much of this wire left, so I'm probably just going to wrap a few things here to tighten some things up, and then I'll start a fresh wire and do the last little bits, probably just a foot. This one has been bugging me all day. This one too. I'll have to remember that spot. That's all you do. You just keep them under control as you work. So pretty. So I'll start another, about a foot, a new wire, and then I'll do a few more in this last color of mine. I think I forgot to tell you guys to leave about 5 feet for these tie wires. So if you're watching this ahead of time, I'll make a note also in the video description that there's 36 feet in the tree, but you want to pull out about 5 feet so that you have some to tie on your beads with. And since it's just here at the end, probably didn't even need a foot. I'm going to travel down this big branch a little bit there. You see how I snapped into it? That'll let me come. I don't need this length. That'll let me come up into here. Now pick up a few of these cute iolites. They've kind of got a purpley blue tone to them, just for something different on this side of the tree. That color should work. Yeah, I like it. So I'll tie these in here. Jump over here. Get into the position I wanted to be in, and now I can pick up my beads. Ooh. I really love these tiny little hyalites. The color in them is so soft, almost like a little light blueberry. I'm going to travel this wire a little bit down to here, just so I'm not cutting it off right there at the bead. Oh, it broke anyway. Broke just at the right spot, so happy day. Try to make sure I tuck it. Sometimes that happens. Then you rearrange some of your branches if you feel like they got a little bit buried or straightened out. Very gently with your plier. You can tap any stretch wires that you might see. And make sure that everything's nice and tight. I love that. Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Okay, so with this last little bit, I'm going to get rid of this leading wire here. I'll bury into all of that and then just do a little break on my wire. Make sure to tuck that under there. And I'm just going to tap all the back of this. That's really lovely. I don't think I want any more beads, but you can do yours to your liking. And then, oh, that's so pretty. And then now I'm going to come up here to my bale. Once everything in your tree is the way you like it, get these pushed to the side. We'll finish the frame here. Just move all that. All right, so up here, I don't want a very deep frame for this one. I just want a little tiny, bale. So I'm going to take my 3mm bale maker, and right here in the middle, I'm just going to flip it over and bring this wire down. What you want is for your wraps to meet just slightly above the other ones. So if you don't think you're going to make it, or you think you're going to be too long, go ahead and take a couple of wraps out. So I'll just hold it all there. I'll carefully bend this big wire down. You just want to be 1 or 2 wraps above your neck wraps, and that's pretty good. When we split these, you want the split to start, right where your other frame is. So that's why I say try to be above a little bit. Then to bring them together, just do a gentle squeeze. It's okay. Sometimes these bands will separate because we turn the wire in half. That's normal. Okay, so that's pretty good right there. I'm going to split these 2 wires. Just hold here at the neck. I want to match the front of my frame. So let me get, if you don't feel like you can get it with your hands sharp enough, you can hold it right here. Just bend that wire down with a plier right at that edge, and then make a nice sharp bend and get right over those branches, and then do the same to the other side while you're here. Make a nice, I'm trying to be in the camera here too. sharp bend this way and get right over those ends. And that'll help you sandwich those ends in. If you have some that are really troublesome, I'm going to show you something. So if your tree ends are really bad and you've got some that just will not stop fraying, you can go to a jeweler's glue. I'm not an affiliate, I'm just trying to help you out. It's a Euro Tool product. You can buy this probably online or even at the local craft store. Just a jeweler's glue. It's like a super glue except it doesn't turn yellow. Less is more. So what I do, and I never turn it, you never turn it over onto your jewelry in case it splashes out, then you're in a world of hurt. This is like a super glue. So what I normally do is if I have frayed ends, I'll dollop a little bit of this onto, this is old bottle, it's stuck together. I dollop a little bit of this onto plastic because super glue won't stick on plastic, and then I will literally use the end of a scrap piece of 20 gauge wire like a spoon. I'll pick up just a drop of that glue and then deliver it to the ends where I need it. Take your plier after that and tap the end down into the glue and it will hold, okay? Less is more with this stuff. So you just barely need any. So anyway, that's your tip to really control those. The trade-off is that that end, now that it has super glue on it, the jeweler's glue, will not take a patina. So if you intend to oxidize the piece, just remember that those little dots in here will not take oxidation that have glue on them, which is not a big deal because you can cover it with this wire we're about to do. Okay, so just make sure the glue doesn't bleed onto the rest of your tree or your gemstones. Okay, so there you go. And here I just eyeball it rather than measuring it. You can measure from here to here, an inch like we did, but since we have the tree there now, it's probably an odd, not an accurate measure. So I just position my plier. You'll do this down here on your board, of course. I'm doing this up here in the air in the camera. But you'll take your plier, hold onto the wire right where you want that bend to be, and then bend down to match your frame. Same for right here. You can take the bend just watch your tree roots. Make sure you don't collide, and I'm on the back side of my tree here, right, with this wire as it comes down. And then this one, same thing. Right here you can just eyeball it, grip it with your plier, make a sharp bend down. I still could have gone out a little bit further with this one. So this is 16 gauge. We can do this a couple times. I'm in the camera here, so I'm just not getting it. We can straighten it out with your flat plier. Get it lined up. And then take the bend. Get it as close as you can so that it covers that little shoulder for you. And then right here, same thing. Get to the edge of that corner. Bend it a little bit to match the corner. And then bend it the rest of the way when you see that it's matched. Okay, and that's pretty good. That'll help you you can feel here those ends won't rub up against the blouse. And now we'll have to do one more attachment, obviously, of this wire. So up here you have your 22 gauge half. If you need it, you can take a time or two around the neck. to help you keep all that together. Just make 2 very neat wraps, tight, all the way to the back. And then right here you can take it through this shoulder. Oop, I missed the shoulder. My wire is pretty short. Take the end of it through this shoulder right here, and then secure it right there. You can do that twice. Do that twice. If not, get one nice tight wrap. Make sure that the neck wraps are not bubbling. If they are, you just tap them a little bit. To the sides here. Mine is pretty short, but I'm going to go one more time because I've got enough space. And I'll just cut it right there. Tuck that little wire behind and in between. Okay, so there's a couple of ways. You can just take, small 6-inch pieces of 28 gauge or 22 gauge, whichever you prefer. I'm going to take 28 gauge and just do 5 wraps right here, 5 wraps right here, or you can use them as decorative wraps and do coiling along the whole thing, grabbing the front frame as you go. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm going to coil down here. It's going to be a longer tutorial. So now what I think I'm going to do, you could leave this all bare wire, right, like I said, or you could coil the whole thing. I'm going to have to add this to the material list, but I've decided I'm going to coil the whole thing using 26 gauge wire, just slightly bigger than the tree wire. And when I get down to these areas that I talked about earlier, I'm going to catch the frame. So I'm going to take 2 feet, 26 gauge. You could do this with 28 gauge too, what you have on hand. I just decided to go with a little thicker wire. So 2 feet of 26 gauge. And I'm going to coil down along this bare wire. I'll just lift this, uncross those a little bit so you're working with the one on top. And we'll tie all that back together and do a little something nice there. Or we can just get rid of them, we'll see. So I'm going to lift this slightly just to make it easier for me to get right into that space. If you need to, take a leading 1 inch and just pull it up here. I'm going to coil, and then probably about 1/2 inch I'm going to grab my frame, coil to the corner, grab the frame, coil to the end of the tree branch, grab the frame. So right up here, since it's open and on top, it's just easy for me to coil through. I'm using 26 because it's a little bigger. It'll give me a little more substance for the back area of the tree frame. But I will also travel faster in these coils since it's a bigger wire. So it won't take me as long. So right about here, midway, 1/2 inch or so, I'm going to take my 26 gauge and I'm going to carefully pass it through my tree branches here to the front. To tie these 2 frames together. Make sure I'm not interfering with my picture. Come back here and continue to coil to the corner and repeat. At the corner, I will also grab the tree frame. That corner is thick, so I'm going to probably get it right here, right before the corner, rather than cause more bulk right there. Just position my wire. Come through that branch. Make sure that I can come back over without disturbing my picture. And then I'll coil to here and do the same. I just trapped my finger in here. Just keep working. It's a beautiful creation. Push these coils back as you go. It'll feel very solid and very clean. So right about here, I'm going to slip in and around the frame, the tree side of the frame, catch both of them. That looks really neat. Come back over. And by cleaning this side up, you really make this a double-sided tree. So you could come back through and add a couple of gemstones or even a moon to this side. We'll talk about that at the end of things. You have a little crevice here, a nice little cup, so you could add another gemstone in here and it would sit recessed and flat and protected. So I tied in one. I went about 3 or 4 more wraps to get to the other side of that branch, and I'm just going to do it again over here, but this time I'm going to go 5 of them, not too tight. You want that little space there. That's pretty good. And then go back to single coils along here. Look at this side. It's a cute little shoulder there. You could coil all the way down if you wanted to. I'm not going to. I'm just going to coil to the back, and then I'll probably grab it, right here again at the foot of the tree roots. This wire's getting short. I'm going to try to get 2 or 3 more wraps, and then I'm going to try to get once or twice around both of these frame wires with this little short end I've got left. So get my plier. So you maybe give yourself 2 feet. I cut this to 16 inches. So I'll go once. I'll go twice, nice and neat and tight. And then I'll take that second one around the single coil to lock it in. So I went around both frame wires twice right there. And now I'm just going to lock this in with a couple of wraps around this single one. Okay? You can break this wire off. Don't do it with the plier. Oof, sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. There it is. Okay, nice and clean break. Woo! And now same for the top. We can get rid of the leading end, and then you can start afresh. Go 18 inches and do the exact same thing along this wire down this side. Get rid of this one, but we'll just spin it until it snaps. Our tree is beautiful. We've got nice edges here. Okay, so that's pretty good. I'm going to finish my other side there. So I'll get another length of 26 gauge round. I'm going to take, and I'll basically repeat. I'm just going to swap these feet again. One is tied down, so use the other one. Put it on top. Just make it easier on you. Come into the wire with the leading 1 inch so you can hold on to it. And then coil. Alright, I went off camera and I did my second side. So now I'm down here right near the tree roots, and I'm going to do the same as this side. I'm going to wrap a couple of times around both frame wires. Maybe I need to go a couple more coils here. And then this one's in the way, so it's a little bit further away, but it's okay. It'll cinch down. There's one. I think I did 2. So I'll go twice around and get my frame hooked on. Get my back of the frame hooked on. That's pretty good. I think I missed it, but that's okay. All right, so that looks good. And we've got the back of our frame on. It's nicely coiled, so it's nicely finished on the back side of the pendant, which now makes it a reversible pendant. It's beautiful. This side of your tree sculpture is just as pretty. We could add a few more beads if you wanted to make it, you know, truly reversible. I would add the beads where you find your little wrap wires that you went around branches. Just a spot of bead here and there. The other thing you could do is get a big old moon bead. So I have this nice pearl. So I have this lovely coin pearl, and since I have a little ridge now and a recessed tree, I really could put a gemstone there and it would sit level with the pendant. So if this is the back side, I could put a nice moon there to the back of this if I wanted to. Just use your branches and tie them in. You know, I'm not going to do that, I don't think. I think it's too much, maybe a little too busy for my tree here, but look how pretty that would be too. I don't know, you might see that at the end of things. Anyway, just some options. Okay, so down here with the bare wire, let me get this one attached. I'm just going to do a couple of single wraps around this wire to make sure this guy's really on here. Okay, and then I'll just do a couple of jiggles if I can to break it. If not, I'll take my cutter and I'll cut that wire off right there. Give it a little tap. So now you have these two ends for a little bit of design if you want them. Okay, so if you have some thickness here that you want to cover, you can just make tiny little curl right here and a tiny little curl in the opposite direction if you want. If you want nothing, you could literally cut them off right there and right there, turn the tips down into your roots and be done. Okay, so because I can always cut them there and turn the ends down, I'm going to try a little design first and see if I like it. So right here, since this is a hexagon, I'm going to bend it up, get my plier, at this bottom point right here. And I'm just going to cause a little V-bend. Put your finger right here so you got some leverage. Make a little V-bend up like that. And now with this other end here, we just do a cute little curl. If I want to put a gemstone in there as a treasure, I can do that and then get this guy and, you know, seat it in there. So as an experiment, let's do it. Let me grab, what have I got? I got a smaller one. This is just a little glass emerald, but it does fit nicely. Don't ruin your sculpture now that you've gone through all this trouble. It does fit nicely right there. And I can have it just barely peeking through the tree there if I want. Ooh, that's kind of pretty. I'm going to go for it. If I don't like it, I'll take it apart. Maybe you just watch this part. If you don't want your emerald right there, then you just do a curl. So I'm going to take this down a little bit to about an inch. I'll get my round nose plier. Get my round nose plier right on that tip. Brace with your thumb here so you got some leverage for the turn. It's thick wire. Just work patiently. Don't pull this out of shape there. And you can just make a nice little curl and land it right there, the center of that tree. So you don't really see it on this side if you don't want it, right? If you want to use it, you could have left it probably a little bit longer. It gives me a place, ooh, to drop a gemstone, and this one has a little tiny point in the back, so I can nestle the point right there. And then of course you'll need a little bit of tie, so I would get some 28 gauge and probably tie it right there to keep it in there. And then you'll probably have to pull your tree back around it slightly keep it nested in there. Don't ruin your tree sculpture. Always look in the front here. You see how we divided those three? And now you can stash a small gemstone in there if you want to. That's kind of neat. I'll leave it in there just for funsies. And I'll just use some of these wires very carefully not to destroy my beautiful sculpted tree, but I'll just kind of nest. If I knew I was going to do this, I might have left some of these roots longer so that I have something to come back up here on. And if you're watching ahead, what I would do is leave one of these center ones a little longer so that you could have taken that root and kind of nested, helped to catch this gemstone too. I'm probably going to have to tie this here if I want it to stay, but you could have done it with one of those roots too. Just FYI, just something different. That's why I like these trees so much. It gives you a little way to be creative, like telling a story. So now we have the tree of 5 fruits on a 3D hexagon cube and or tesseract cube. Now we have, the Philosopher's stone or the emerald stone tucked in there as a little treasure. Just keep your tree real nice. Don't let, the wires separate. So like I said, as you do that, don't wreck your sculpture, but I like that. I think I'm going to keep it there. And then this one, if I need to reinforce it, I've got this whole other wire, and I can come up here and reinforce that capture. So I'll just go right here. Just taking my plier and turning it up right there. I'm just going to back bend it onto itself. Take it right here. Make the tightest little back bend that I can make. Try to bring it right next to this other wire. Pinch it a little bit down here to make a point. So now when I capture this stone, I'm going to tie it together right here. And that gives me this other piece that I can reinforce this side with. It's very short. It's hard to bend. Hold here so you get some leverage and hold the front so the stone doesn't shift. Watch your tree. I'm just going to take it right over like that. Try to do something cute with this end here. I've munched up this end, so I'm just going to sacrifice it to try to bury it down there. So now I have another cute little layer right over that tiny gemstone. I'll tie these wires together and try to catch the edge of this tree to sandwich that together. Okay, to hold all that together, and then probably stitch it right there too. Pinch this a little bit more. Raise it a little bit. Pull this in a little bit. Okay, so now that's a nice capture on that faceted gemstone. Close that up a little more so that I don't see it in the front. Probably when I sew it all together I won't see it. But see here, this is just at the skirt of my tree so that I don't necessarily see that in the front. Okay, and that gives reinforcement for the whole thing. Okay, so I'll take some 28 gauge. We're done with this pretty much. I'm going to take some 28 gauge and I'm going to tie this little intersection up. You can tie it up with 26 gauge too if you want to. Actually, I say 28, but you could do 26. I'm going to snip this munchy end off real quick. Not too much. So that I can tuck that down there like that. Tie these together. Please leave a comment if you enjoyed this project, and also please give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it and that you liked these tree series. And then if you make one, please find me on social media. I would love to see your creation. I'm just going to position this with my flat plier a little more inward. There it is. Holding this point right here. Just work yours carefully. Just going to try to circle that, just like that. All right. I feel good about that. That's nice and secure. Okay, woo! This was fun. I love this tree. I hope you love this tree. I'm going to take 26 gauge since I've just been working with it and I've got 26 in my hand here. Slip back through here. I know we did some of this backside embellishment, impromptu, but I think it turned out quite well. Be careful when you come through, you got the point of your gemstone there, so as you hook it, I'm just going to do a couple of sewing stitches here to get attached. I'll make my way over to the other side here. I've got about a foot of this 26 gauge. Might be all that I need just to do this little bit. So now I'm going to go for these two together. Rather than try to slip underneath my gemstone there, because I have the point, I'm just going to sew it this way. Get a little upturn on that wire, it'll help you get through here a little easier. Alright, so I did a few wraps there to get those nice and secure, and I passed the wire back through for the last wrap. Instead of looping those two, I came and passed it through to the front so that I can tie that wire back, both those wires back with this one. So I'll just come through here and grab the frame, the front side of the frame. Just make sure that goes into a nice neat place and it isn't an unsightly wire there. So right there it's practically invisible. And if I feel like I need to do that again, I can, but I think I'm good. Just going to wrap couple of times around this single one and get rid of it. I'm going to pass back through here actually. Just like this. And I'll just make a couple of wraps right there to make sure I get it a couple of times. Just look at yours and see what works out best for your tree and your tree roots. I know we kind of did the embellishment here on the fly with this one, so there won't be an embellishment video because we just inserted that gemstone, which was an embellishment on the fly kind of last minute thing. Just using the edge of my plier and making sure that my tree is nice. I'll go through here one more time to get 2 wraps right there. Looks nice. And I can bury the wire end right in there when I'm done. So right here I'll just do this nice jiggle until it breaks, and then that's it. There's actually a little bit that's stuck there, so tap that. Okay. Woo! That was a big wrap, you guys, but look at this masterpiece tree you've created. Woo! The tree of 5 fruits. I hope you've enjoyed. Thanks for being here, and I will see you for the next one. So we can put our favorite 1mm faceted ball chain on there and enjoy that. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. So pretty on both sides. All right, you guys, there it is. Congratulations, you did great. And I will see you for the next one.